So I was doing research at a lab at Carleton University with some profs and PhD students. And we were working on creating like a biosensor for Parkinson's disease. And we did lots of like testing and it was pretty successful. So we ended up publishing it in an IEEE conference. And I think that was definitely one of the standout parts of my application. As well, I'm really like passionate about promoting women in tech and just women in STEM overall. So in high school, I was part of an organization. They're called Revolution, and we organize like a bunch of events and
You're
workshops.
now listening to Season 3 of Spark After Hours, where we sit down to chat with STEM professionals every Sunday. If you like this episode, consider following us on Spotify and Instagram at Spark Hacks. We hope you enjoy.
Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of Spark After Hours. My name is Risha and I'm a part of the digital media executive team here at Spark.
Hi everyone, my name is Haley Patel and I'm also a digital media executive here at Spark.
Now, Spark is a nonprofit organization that focuses on empowering young minds by nurturing essential skills for a seamless transition into STEM fields.
Now for this episode, we're going to be shifting our focus into the world of software engineering. Our guest today is in her first year of software engineering at the University of Waterloo, and today she is here to talk about her experiences. Without further ado, we will introduce our guest, Helen Li.
Helen, thank you so much for joining us here today. Please feel free to tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Hi, and thank you so much for having me today. So, as Haley and Risha introduced me, I'm Helen, and I'm in my first year of software engineering at the University of Waterloo. I'm from Ottawa, Ontario, and I went to high school at a school called Lisgar. And I guess a few interesting things about me are that I like to ballroom dance. I also like to play badminton and go skiing. And sometimes when I do have free time, I will read light novels.
Interesting, good to know. So now we will be diving straight into the questions that we have.
So first, the big question, why software engineering? What made you choose this certain career?
Okay, so this kind of came from when I was very little. I was like very into games. And I played games like almost the entire day. And then I began to create like gaming YouTube videos. I started my own YouTube channel and I got really into like creating and like designing and just I wanted to create my own games. So that's when I started to think about like a career in learning how to code and maybe becoming a game developer. But that was like my initial passion as I began to like take computer science courses. I created like a few projects and then I realized that my passion isn't really in games anymore. I kind of just wanted to create like new impactful projects that can somehow connect the tech industry to the healthcare industry. And that's kind of how I got into like software engineering because that's kind of the basis of all of this, learning how to program and create really meaningful projects that can just help impact and change the world.
Just a quick question follow-up. Why did you choose software engineering over biomedical engineering if you're really interested in bringing in the aspect of healthcare?
So I wanted to focus on like applying my technical skills to the industry, to like the healthcare industry. So if I wanted to develop my technical skills first, because that was like the first step, I wanted to make sure I had like a strong technical background. So I wanted to go into software engineering. And I did reach out to one of the biomedical engineering upper years when I was in high school. And I found out that it wasn't as like programming focused and coding focused. So I wanted that strong foundation in coding.
Yeah, I think many people do get confused with the differences between software engineering and maybe even biomedical engineering. And since we do have maybe a younger audience that is watching this podcast, I think that's really good and beneficial to know when you're choosing your majors.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, yeah. Now, the next question is, it's kind of similar to what we had before and what you were talking about, but what makes software engineering more different from other technology-based majors, like maybe computer science or even computer engineering?
I would say for Waterloo specifically, software engineering is basically just the same as computer science, but with like a few more add-ons. Like we also take chemistry and physics, which might be interesting to some people. And that was definitely interesting to me because I really love science. And they were like some of my favorite courses in high school. As well, I'd say there's a bit more like there's a bit more learning in terms of software engineering for at least the first year because we take like a few more courses than the computer science majors, and I wanted to like kind of, I guess, challenge myself like intellectually and just be able to like learn as much as I can like in this young like stage that I'm at right now. So I definitely wanted to do it for the learning. And computer engineering is a bit more focused on like hardware, at least for the University of Waterloo. I'm not too sure about other universities. So I do think hardware is interesting, but it wasn't like my passion or like the thing that was like that I was gunning at in terms of doing coding. So I chose software engineering instead because it was more just programming focused and software focused rather than hardware. That reminds me, one other difference between like software engineering and computer science is that we do have like a bit of hardware since we have lots of like circuits classes. We can take them since we're also part of the ECE faculty, which is electrical and computer engineering. So we are allowed to take all of the electrical and computer engineering electives, while the computer science students are not. And in first year, we actually have like a course that makes us use hardware in a project that we create as a team. So it does like, I think I like how it gives me a bit of hardware knowledge, but not like as much that as like computer engineering, that I would be more hardware than like software focused.
That's quite interesting. Yeah, no, I definitely wanted to know like the actual difference between computer science and software engineering, so that's really good to know. So a question that I really wanted to ask is, what makes Waterloo so unique? Like, why do you specifically choose University of Waterloo over other universities that are also really like famous and good in like computer science or software engineering?
Yeah, so I think everyone has heard this a million times, but University of Waterloo has a really good co-op program. So for me, I would be able to have 6 co-op terms before I graduate, and that means working at 6 different companies for 4 months each. And that is a lot of work experience that pretty much like will guarantee me to have a full-time job by the end of my bachelor's. So that was definitely something that I really liked. And I think um so Waterloo has this like I guess it's called like a system that some kind of like system that they have in place, and it's called like Waterloo Works. And basically as a Waterloo student, I have access to Waterloo Works, so I can apply to jobs and co-ops through Waterloo Works, which gives me like a boost in terms of other applicants from from different universities, because Waterloo has a good reputation for like their computer science majors, obviously, and there are companies who will like put their postings on Waterloo Works because they want to hire Waterloo students. I encountered like a direct example of this earlier this year where I was at Hack the North, and there was like sponsorship. There were a lot of sponsor companies there. And I was talking to one of them, and they had like QR codes for you to scan if you want to like apply to their co-ops. And when I was scanning them, he was like, "Are you a Waterloo student?" And I was like, "Yes." And he said, "Oh, don't apply through this like um QR code. Apply through Waterloo Works, because if you apply through Waterloo Works, you have a higher chance in comparison to applying externally as someone just like not from Waterloo."
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, Waterloo does have a really good co-op system, and that can be really attractive to many applicants who want to go to the University of Waterloo. So what did you specifically do to stand out in your application? You know, what was your top six average or any of the extracurriculars that you did throughout your high school years to make yourself seem more unique compared to everyone else?
Yeah, that's a good question. So my top six average in grade 12, I believe, was like about 97, 98. And then my extracurriculars. So I'm really, really passionate about like medical biology related things, as I talked about earlier. So I was doing research at a lab at Carleton University with some profs and PhD students. And we were working on creating like a biosensor for Parkinson's disease. And we did lots of like testing and it was pretty successful. So we ended up publishing it in an IEEE conference. And I think that was definitely one of the standout parts of my application. As well, I'm really, really like passionate about promoting women in tech and just women in STEM overall. So in high school, I was part of an organization. They're called Hervolution. And we organize like a bunch of events and workshops and just to like promote young girls like interest in STEM. And for me personally, since I love coding, I did a bunch of like coding workshops, like, oh, introduction to Python, or like introduction to C, or like, here's how you design like a website with Figma. And yeah, I think those were like the two most significant parts of my high school
Yeah.
extracurriculars.
Now, just as a kind of follow-up question, I know Waterloo does host a bunch of contests like the CEMC contest or like the Pascal contest. Did you do any of those? And if so, are they helpful in your application?
I did do some of them. I think I did the Gauss. I didn't do Pascal. I did Cayley. I did Fermat. I did Hypatia, and then I did Euclid. But I never did really well on any of them. I was like pretty average. So I don't think they matter very much. At least I know when I was researching to go to university, I asked around a lot and they don't really help too much unless it's like, wow, like very, very top or something. And especially for faculty of engineering. So for example, if you want to apply to software engineering, they don't really care about the math contests very much. I think they might care a tiny bit more if you're applying to the faculty of math. So for example, like computer science, but Waterloo themselves say that they really only value the participation. You don't have to do well in them. So I think that has held true for the people that I've talked to.
That's quite helpful. So now I just want to ask you, like, how is your life right now at Waterloo? Are you part of any extracurriculars there? How's like the classes and stuff like that? I just want to know about how your life is right now at Waterloo.
Yeah, for sure. It's really fun, actually. I'm like really surprised how much I'm enjoying it. The fact that it's away from home is really nice because I finally have freedom to like do whatever I want and just spend like alone time without like having parents. Although I love my parents, sometimes like it is pretty difficult when you're always around them. Um, I think the classes have been really nice. We do have classes for like the same amount of time as we had classes in high school. So there's not too much difference there. In terms of like extracurriculars, I joined a design team. It's called Watt AI, which is kind of like the artificial intelligence design team that they have at Waterloo. And it's really fun. We're currently working on making this computer vision model that is going to like take in a X-ray image as input and then detect if there's any fractures and then like say what kind of body part has the fracture is on. So that has been super fun. I've been like really interested in artificial intelligence for a long time too. We also have a bunch of like clubs. I joined ballroom dancing since I enjoy ballroom dancing. There's a computer science club, which I regularly go to their events, and they're pretty fun. They have events like twice a week. There's also a Chinese Christian fellowship club that I joined because it was like a really, really good networking place where I could meet a lot of upper years as well as just like meet a lot of friends. I know a lot of people go there to like make friends and stuff. So I've been going there and it's been really fun. And could you remind me if there were any other questions in your big segment?
Um, I also no, I just asked classes, extracurriculars, and just how your life is overall. So
Yeah, life is really good. It's really fun. But the workload is definitely what I expected. Like it's definitely a lot. It's a bit more than yeah, it's quite a lot more than high school, but it's still manageable.
Yeah, so now kind of shifting our focus into more the academic side of the University of Waterloo, how many programming languages do you recommend someone to know? Like I know in my school specifically, there are students who are learning like 10 different languages, and there are a couple who learn like only two or three. So how much would you recommend if you want to if you wanted to go to software engineering?
If you want to go to software engineering, you just need to know one. Like you don't need to know anything more than that. They only require you to have experience in building like well-structured programs. So you can do that in any language that you want. Personally, I believe I only wrote like one official language on my AIF that wasn't just like HTML or CSS. So all I put was C when I was applying. And yeah, that was all I really needed. So, I mean, obviously more languages are better, but you really don't need more than one.
okay, sounds good. Next I wanted to ask for you to explain like how was your transition from high school to university? I know that you said that it was like the same time as you like same time of classes like as you would in high school, but like I know was like how was the drastic change? Like did it go from being like really like simple to like something hard, or was it hard for you to adjust? Like just for you to expand on your transition.
Yeah, for sure. For me personally, I found the very beginning of university, the first month, it's pretty much just review from high school. So it's not too difficult. They definitely like gradually ramp it up. So at the beginning, it's not difficult at all. And then after midterms, it gets to be a lot harder. Everything is new content. And I'd say, like, now that it's after midterms, I definitely have to spend around maybe 40 hours a week studying outside of just taking my 40 hours of 38 hours of classes. So it's definitely a lot of work. But I mean, if you just put in the work and the time and do your due diligence studying, it is manageable.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Could you maybe share, I know you explained this a little bit in the previous questions, but could you maybe share a couple personal projects that you've done in the University of Waterloo or a huge project that you've worked on?
Yeah, for sure. So other than doing my current project at Watt AI, I don't really have time to do my personal side projects. So that is like the biggest side project that I'm working on, and it's a collaborative one. But ever since I got to Waterloo, I did participate in a few hackathons. I went to Hack the North and I went to Technova. And at those hackathons, I created like a project, and I suppose you could call it like a side project. They were definitely they were definitely like not something that I would be able to create in such a short amount of time if it were not for my teammates. So, like personally, I'm going to put them on my resume and they're going to stand as projects. So, yeah, just hackathons are really great for that too.
Just to follow up on that, are there any, I know that for engineering, like specifically software engineering, Waterloo asks for you to have like some sort of side project portfolio built when you're applying. Do you have any projects like that that you listed on your AIF?
Yes. So I listed a few of my assignments from my computer science courses in high school. I also listed a project that I created for the Queen's Computing Challenge that I did in grade 11. And it was like, it's basically a 1 month hackathon. So you have a team and you create a project in 1 month, which is a lot more time than a hackathon. So it was a really good opportunity for me to like finish a pretty big project within that time. Um, I also there was also a Technovation challenge that I participated in. And basically it's like another hackathon, but it's focused on developing a mobile app, and it's also with a team, and you get around 3 months for that. So that was something else I worked on. And yeah, I think that was all I put on my AIF.
Sounds good. Okay, so now what was the most difficult part of software engineering so far? So like, is there anything you wish you would have known about before going into the program you're in currently?
Yeah, so I think the most difficult part is definitely just the amount of homework that you get. I have pretty much either a tutorial, which is kind of like a quiz. So like a quiz, a assignment, or like another online quiz. I have like 1 to 2 of those due every single day of the week. So that is a lot of like things that you have to get done every day. And that's pretty much what adds to the workload. And I think it's pretty difficult to take time out of my weekdays just because of like these deadlines. So during the weekdays, the schedule is definitely very packed and there's a lot of work to do. And I think that's definitely the most difficult part because in high school, we're not really used to doing so much work like every day of the week. But we do get a lot of break on the weekends. Um, the second part of your question was about what I wanted to know before coming to software engineering. So for that, I'd say I think I wish I knew that when I was in software engineering, I wouldn't have like the time to pretty much perfect every single assignment or perfect my studying for every single tutorial slash quiz, because there's just a lot of things that goes around. Like there's a lot of things to work on. And if I put more time into one thing, then I would have less for the others. So I have to really split my time equally. And that means I can't make every single thing perfect like I did in high school. So I think I was doing that at the beginning of the term, but then I realized it wasn't working. And then I had to change, kind of adjust in terms of, yeah, that.
Our next question is from one of our listeners. His name is Navjot. Um, what do the career prospects for someone with both a BBA slash BSc computer science look like? Are there any specific special career paths for such an individual?
I personally am not extremely familiar with the BBACS program and job perspectives. So I don't think I'm the best person to ask. I might not be able to provide like the most accurate answer. The most I can really do is like take a guess that they would usually work in the CS industry, but maybe some of them like find out that like they enjoy business more, and then maybe they could become like a project manager or some position similar to that. And then I think a lot of people might also want to like just do their work on their own startups, and then they go into that kind of field. But yeah, I'd say that's my best guess, but please take my answer with a grain of salt because I'm not very familiar with that program.
Okay, so now we're gonna go into our rapid fire questions. So first, I wanted to ask you, what is your favorite study method?
My favorite study method, probably studying alone, like in the library, just because I can't really study with noise around me. And I find that when I'm with other people, I get distracted too easily. I talk a lot and then we end up being less productive. So sometimes when I do have to be productive, I enjoy just studying in the library by myself.
Now, how do you, if you do, pull off any all-nighters?
I don't think I've ever pulled an all-nighter before. I have not really gotten into my coffee addiction yet. So I've been telling like my friends about this and they're like, "Oh yeah, don't drink coffee. You don't want to get started." So I think I'm gonna keep it that way for now and try my best to sleep even if I don't finish my assignments because sleep is very important to get me through.
Yeah, you're so right. Okay, next, are you more of a science person or a math person? I know that like when you're in engineering, you do both. So which one are you?
I think I'm more of Oh, that is a good question, actually. I think I enjoy the science courses a lot more than just math because math is a lot of computation, like you learn how to do it, you do the same thing over and over again. But I don't find it like boring, really. I think I like both of them, but maybe science wins by like a bit.
Now, finally, what is your favorite place on the Waterloo campus?
Okay, so this one is definitely the SJU library. So the St. Jerome's University Library. St. Jerome is the residence that I'm currently living in, and they have like their own library that's really secluded from like the rest of campus. Not a lot of people know about it, which is why it's pretty quiet and there's not too many people in it, and it's super, super nice. So it's a really, really good place to study, and it's also close to my dorm.
Well, okay, yeah, thank you for your response. Okay, so that wraps up our episode. Thank you, Helen, so much for taking time out of your day to be here. For everyone who's listening, make sure to follow Helen on LinkedIn, which is at Helen Li. Make sure to follow Spark Social if you're not already. So visit us on Instagram at Spark Hacks. Our website is darthaspark.ca and our LinkedIn is Spark.
Thank you again to all of our listeners. Stay tuned for the next episode on Spark After Hours, where we bring another awesome guest. Spark signing out.